Thank you, Simone. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
It's a team effort, though. I mean, everybody on the team is there, kind of putting out posts. Also, I got to give recognition to Teresa Peña. She is like our social media person. She is constantly putting out things. Gina did a great job with some videos that we shared with the community and helping them understand the bonds, because sometimes our community doesn't understand. And I mean, let's be honest, I had some trouble understanding the bonds when I first went to the polls. So, for someone who English is a second language, it might be even a little bit more difficult. So thanks for everyone who's put this effort together.
En
And
la llamada, mamita.
just some positive news on that. We've had over 81,000 Hispanic
Todo
Latino
ganando Biden, ¿no?
vote across the state of North Carolina, which is about
Van a
30%.
estar los dos ahí.
I'm going to
So,
ask, I'm
Obama
sorry,
y
Leo, give me 1 second. If everyone can just go on mute, or Gina may have taken care of them. Okay, sorry about that, Leo. Go ahead.
no, just saying we've had over 81,000 of 225,000 eligible Hispanic Latino voters get out to vote. So that's a positive sign. This is just in early voting and in mail-in ballots. So let's continue. We have 3 days left, and let's continue to make that push. Thank you.
What was that number? You said 81,000 of the what, 200 and?
Of 225,000 registered
225.
Hispanic Latino voters. Yep. So it's about 36.3% the last time I checked, and those were numbers as of yesterday. So the numbers keep getting updated every day. By Sunday, I hope to see 50%. If we get 50% Hispanic Latino voters to come out in early voting and absentee ballot, I will be happy. Because then that means that we just need to make that final push on election day
Hey, Leo, is that just Mecklenburg County or is that across the state?
across the state.
Okay.
I don't have any local numbers, unfortunately. I was able to just pull the numbers from the state Board of Elections.
Okay, so if you haven't voted, vote, and we'll spend more time talking about this. And if you can definitely get the word out through your social media, through your outlets, by all means, this is a great opportunity. Of course, we're breaking a lot of records right now in terms of not only just in North Carolina, but across the country, because we hear that every day on the news. But the importance of getting the Hispanic Latino vote out would just be amazing. That is
So
our right. So
we did
thanks for that.
today. We just put a post on social media asking people to challenge 5 people. Challenge 5 people in your social network. Hey, have you voted? I don't care who you vote for. We don't need to know who anybody voted for. Just have you voted, please, and then tag 5 other people, because we really need to get the push out.
Excellent, thank you. And I would echo all of Simone's comments, and we know that you're doing this on a volunteer basis, you and the team. So we really appreciate it. So thank you for doing that. Maybe after November 3rd, you'll get to rest a little bit, have some time to yourself. Great, well, thank you for that. And again, thanks, Simone, for recognizing Leo. Anyone else, any other recognition? I would like to recognize Banu and Charlotte Bilingual Preschool. I know Banu is a little bit under the weather today, and I don't know if Drew was able to join us, but Banu, the bank has this Neighborhood Builders grant that we offer every year. We've been doing this for 17 years. We select 2 nonprofits across our 91 markets. And these organizations, it's a 2-year program, very competitive, but we identify 2 organizations to be a part of it. And they receive, as part of this grant, they receive $200,000, $100,000 year 1, and then $100,000 year 2. And it's unrestricted, so the organizations can use it, however they'd like to. So Charlotte Bilingual and Loaves and Fishes were the 2 organizations here in Charlotte that were recognized or that were awarded those neighborhood builder grants. So I'm thrilled. Oh, so Drew is present, so I can't see him here, but so Drew is, of course, representing Charlotte Bilingual. So again, want to recognize them for going through the process. And for those that participated in the committee, the bank identifies us, a committee, which are external leaders. So we want to thank you for participating in that process and representing the community as a whole to be a part of the selection process of identifying these organizations. So thanks, and again, congratulations to Charlotte Bilingual Preschool. And then as part of this grant, Banu will also go through this program, a leadership program where it's building capacity, et cetera, which is very, very comprehensive. So we're thrilled that we were able to identify not only Charlotte Bilingual Preschool, but also representing the Hispanic Latino community. So kudos to Charlotte Bilingual Preschool. and loaves and fishes. Any other recognition before we go to our agenda? Okay. So, last time when we met, 2 weeks ago when we met, we were privileged to have Atrium Health, Dr. Michael Gibbs join us and talked a little bit about COVID-19 and the work that Atrium Health is doing. And then Dr. Turley wasn't able to join us. She had a conflict, but she's with us today. And I believe, I don't know if Dr. Gibbs was able to join us. I'm going to kind of scroll through. There's just a lot of folks I know.
I'm here, Grace.
Oh, here he is. So Dr. Gibbs and Dr. Turley are both with us, also, as I mentioned earlier, representing Atrium Health. So Dr. Gibbs, I'm going to turn it over to you. And I know we talked about two things. One, obviously the community partnership outreach plan that we had spoken to probably about a month ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago. And then also introduce Dr. Turley and the work that she's been doing, because we didn't have a chance to do that last time. So with that, Dr. Gibbs, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you for that. And I appreciate the audience last time. It was really great to meet everybody on the call and to hear the wonderful things that you're up to in the community. So thank you for supporting our community. It's extremely important. And I think now is an especially important time to do so because we're now in the second wave of the pandemic. And something happened in June that was absolutely amazing. And that is that Dr. Chris Turley joined the organization by, almost perfectly timed. And she's a general pediatrician with a lot of general pediatrics experience, but also she is as luck would have it for Atrium Health, a nationally and internationally known vaccine trial expert. And she's worked on this for her entire career with, large efforts by CDC and by the government, et cetera, on several prior studies. So the fact that she landed in Charlotte was almost an amazing coincidence for us. And she very quickly grabbed a big bull by the horns and started to bring people together and assemble the right, the right experts, and really did try to drive a vaccine trial here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And so we've been working frantically. I'm pretty sure that Dr. Turley has not been allowed to sleep for the last several months. And we're actually poised to begin, I think, hopefully in November. So Dr. Turley, you have the floor, and you have so much to share with us, and I won't say a word. I'm just excited that you're here, and I'm excited that we both have been able to join this really important audience. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. I appreciate it. And Grace, I'm so happy to have the invitation to talk to this group of individuals, because you're really a critical piece of our vaccine story, and really a critical piece of turning the page on this pandemic. And so I'm really excited to be able to share with you today. Grace, do you mind if I show my screen? Because I put some slides together just because I think sometimes it's easier to see some things as we're hearing things. So if that's
Sure,
okay.
please.
Okay, thanks. I think that should be the one. Are you able to see that?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So we put together this program that we're calling Strive for Healthier Futures, and it is a kind of a comprehensive vaccine research program that we've been kind of building. And part of it's hinging on where COVID is. And I think it just kind of position that for everybody on this call, because you're thinking about it on a day-to-day basis, but the big picture of COVID is just enormous. Almost 45 million cases worldwide. This is as of yesterday, which is just a tremendous impact that it's having across the globe. Almost 9 million cases in our country, 227, almost 230,000 deaths in the United States. Just tremendous negative impact there that is taking a toll daily. And in North Carolina, as we kind of get closer and closer to home, over 250,000 cases and over 4,000 deaths. And just last week, the FDA approved one antiviral medicine, which is interesting. It's approved in this country. It was not found to be as impactful worldwide, but we've seen positive results, I think, in reducing hospitalizations for a select group of patients. But that's the only known approved treatment right now for some of the sickest patients. So there's a lot of impact that COVID is having. And then if we look at the hardest hit groups, we see our Hispanic and Latino and African American people are having some of the highest impact of COVID, with almost 4 times the hospitalization rates, with virus as other groups. Older adults, as we know, are really at very high risk, hospitalizations, intensive care, higher risk of death. And then everybody, no matter what group you fall into, is having a lot of downside from COVID, right? There's a lot of social isolation, there's economic hardship, businesses. I mean, this has been, obviously something we're grappling with. And if we look specifically at the Hispanic and Latinx community, we are seeing some really very compelling impact that COVID is having. About 1 out of every 5 deaths in the United States is somebody who is Hispanic. That's just enormous, because that is a disproportionate negative impact that is just going to have far-reaching implications for our country. Compared to white Americans, Hispanic Americans are more likely to be in essential service industries and have increased exposure, 3.3 more times likely to die from COVID, less likely to have health insurance, and more likely to live in a multi-generational household, so more likely to have this cross-complicated management of exposures and disease. So we, as Dr. Gibbs mentioned, launched a program in about a month ago called Strive for Healthier Futures. And that program is to help us at Atrium work in a very meaningful kind of longitudinal way with national leaders around a vaccine, working both to identify a vaccine that is safe and effective, and also to help increase the eventual acceptance of it and reduce some of the things that are going to cause people to hesitate to want to take it. So to try to develop really strong information that people could take and use for their own decision-making around a vaccine as we get through a trial. So what is Strive? So people can sign up for this program. It's a vaccine research registry, and it's a way for people to learn more about vaccine research and development that's happening for COVID vaccines, and potentially consider joining one. It isn't signing up for one, but it's if you're thinking about it, or you just want to learn more about it from a fact standpoint, it's a way to sign up for that. We're looking for thousands of people. We've got about 3,000 people have signed up so far. So we're really glad in about a month, we've got about 3,000 individuals. 10,000 is just a big number because we'd like to be as inclusive as possible for as many people as possible. We take more than 10,000. 10,000 isn't a goal that is needed to be met to be able to do the work that we're doing. It's voluntary, it's secure. People who sign up get educational information. We're trying to send stuff out about once every week to 10 days for people to learn about vaccines and vaccine research that's happening with COVID. We have everything that we are doing that is available from day one in English and Spanish, because we wanted everyone to recognize that this initiative is an inclusive initiative. There's no one and no part of our community that's an afterthought, as we recognize that the strong need to include diverse communities across Charlotte. And why is diversity so important in this? And I just want to make sure that everybody has a chance to really think through this. I think the first piece of this is one of the most important pieces, is that if we want a vaccine that is going to work for the most impacted people need to be in the trial so we know that it will work, right? That sort of seems intuitive, but unless you really think through it, you might miss it. And if we think about groups and parts of our community, we wouldn't think about having a vaccine ultimately that wasn't tested in older people, because we want to be sure that it works for them, because we know how much death, how much negative impact they've been having from isolation and so forth. Likewise, people with chronic disease, we know that they're hospitalized at higher rates, they're having higher risk of death. We want to be sure a vaccine works for people who have heart disease and diabetes and pulmonary disease. So we don't want anybody left out of it. And if we think about what is ethical, we know that people are bearing a terrible burden of disease, and not allowing people to have a chance to participate in finding a solution is not ethically appropriate, right? That is to exclude anybody if we didn't have materials in Spanish, for instance, and putting up that barrier to allow people to participate in this when they're already bearing such a burden of the disease, that is against principles of ethical justice. So we don't want anybody left behind from the benefits that will come from having this strong vaccine-produced immunity to COVID-19, because it's going to be really how we move past where we are with the pandemic. So as I mentioned, we've got, we put together a web page at Atrium. We've got with it a host of some information about the vaccine trials, QR codes. It's a link to sign up. It's a secure web-based sign-up method that we have, so that it's available safely across the community. And as I said, the materials are in English and Spanish, and we have the sign-up is bilingual as well as the educational materials. So you might be wondering, like, what happens when people sign up? The first thing that you do if you go to the link is that you get information about what the project is, and if you want to do it, you agree, and then you provide some information. And it takes about 5 minutes altogether. It's very basic stuff like, how do you want to be contacted? What's your address, your email, your cell phone number so we could text you? And then like what your potential risk of exposure might be. How much are you out in the community? Do you work in healthcare? And then some very brief click buttons about, do you have a heart problem? Do you have to take blood pressure medicine? And so forth. Just a list of things, and you just click through them, and that's it. That's all the information you have to provide, nothing beyond that. And what happens then after you sign up? So what happens then is that about once a week or every 10 days or so, 2 weeks, we are sending out emails to folks with vaccine research and vaccine information. So you can learn something that might be in the news. There's a committee meeting, there's something that's out there. What about the safety of the vaccines? How do you test a vaccine, and so forth? So some basics to give people some information. Expecting the general public to become vaccine experts, to become vaccinologists because we have a pandemic is a ridiculous thing, honestly. And we're trying to help people get information they can use at a pace that is ingestible, if you will, like not trying to like flood people with tons of information all at once. And then we're taking the information that people gave us, we're trying to sort it. We're looking at a trial, one of the first trials that we have coming up, to try to help identify people who are at high risk so that we can be able to reach out. One of the reasons a registry is so important is that when the trials start themselves, we're trying to enroll people quite quickly so that we can get to solutions quickly around what vaccines work. And if we don't use a registry, we can't engage a whole host of the whole community. So we kind of end up having a limited array of people participating. So we try as much as we can to do this in advance a little bit, to let people come into the conversation over a little bit of time. So we have a host of materials, posters and flyers and wallet cards and rat cards and all sorts of different things in English and Spanish. We've got all kinds of different visuals. But we could do some Zoom calls with businesses. We could come do some presentations. We could share materials. We could do things that work for you. We have bilingual spokespeople who are investigators, who are coordinators, who are part of this work, because we recognize that from a research standpoint, to be inclusive, people need to see themselves in the work and understand how this connects to them, their own life and their own sense of community. People ask me a little bit often about what is going to happen in the study itself. And the registry isn't the study. So I don't want people to think that if they sign up for the registry, they're in a vaccine trial. We're going to launch that after, and we'll call people, email, or reach out to them in the way they prefer in the registry when they sign up, if they would qualify for that. So I don't want to talk about the trials because it starts to confuse it. But one thing that we're doing, which I think is going to be really impactful, is that we're working to bring the research to the community. We will have a mobile vaccine research center. It's an RV that is a self-contained research unit that we can bring around Charlotte, bring to different places to allow people easier access to the research so that one, we can make it visible in the community. Two, we can bring the RV rather, to different settings in the community that might make people might not have as easy access to get to us. And we really are thinking about how do we make it possible for people to say yes to being in the research, to being part of research. And we're trying to think about where would good locations be? Are there businesses? Are there faith community members that could help us, allow us to park the RV there, that would help partner with us on communicating with people who frequent that business or that church and that or that environment, to help them learn about this work and think about whether they're interested in it. So that's our research team, and really kind of, I'd like to leave you with this idea of, and I think we're all thinking about it a little bit, but we might lose sight of the idea that vaccines are the way forward for us to kind of get beyond this pandemic. And everybody right now has an opportunity to play a role. It doesn't mean that everybody should be in the research, but we all need to learn about vaccines right now so that we understand them when there is a vaccine option. We need to learn what are the risks and benefits. There are going to be more than one vaccine available. We have 3 billion people who need a vaccine right now, right? Because this is hitting the whole world. So we're obviously going to need more than one. We're going to find that one or more of these vaccines works better for different groups of people, for older people, maybe for children. And so we need different choices, and we need people to learn about this now so that they're ready. And when we're ready with a vaccine, our community is ready, and we don't have a delayed upside of having a vaccine to protect us. So the stuff in the appendix is just some of the material that we have and some examples of that. So I would be happy to take questions, because you guys hopefully will have some feedback for me and some thoughts and some things that we should be thinking about. And I'd love to learn from you about some of that. Thank you.
Dr. Turley, thank you for that. Can you share this information with me, so that we can share it more broadly with this team? That would be great. And then we'll have time for like 2 questions. Any questions for Dr. Turley? Questions or comments?
Yeah, if I can jump in, this is Gabe Esparza. Dr. Turley, thank you for this work and for the important work of including Latinos in your research. My questions are twofold. Number one is this research associated with a specific vaccine manufacturer? Is it Eli Lilly? Is it Pfizer? Is it Roche? Who is it? And then second, and I discussed this last time we had this conversation, what's your sense of the availability of the vaccine at some point for kids? Because my understanding from our last conversation is right now most of the research is on adults. So I'd love to get your comments on either of those 2 things.
Sure, really good question. So the work we're doing at Atrium, when we started it just, Atrium felt like Atrium wants to have some leadership in this way, and started by self-funding all of the things that we're talking about today. We are part of now, through that work that we've been building up, something called the COVID Prevention Network, which is an NIH-sponsored it's across the nation, and actually there are some worldwide sites as well, to look at vaccine trials, to be able to set up sites across the country. So we have a little bit of startup money there from them. And then we're doing our trials through the NIH. And what this network has done is trying to set up a lot of different sites across the country so that we can be very inclusive for diverse populations nationally, so that we understand how it works. And the manufacturers can come to the COVID Prevention Network, and the NIH kind of partners with manufacturers who are making the vaccines to bring the trials to these sites across the country. So there's over 300 sites now through part of the COVID Prevention Network. What we're looking at, the first study that we have, we will be working with one company. So when we're doing a trial like this, we you can really only ethically work with one product at a time, because otherwise, why am I putting you in this trial and not in that trial, right? So typically a site will do only one vaccine at a time. All of them are vetted to a level that says they're ready to go into the community before we would consider it. So we're not doing any early phase work. We're starting at phase 3 when we're enrolling about 30,000 people nationally in that work. And I could share more specifics about the trial, but I knew we had a short window today. But that's the phase we're looking at, Gabe, because we're really wanting to think about having some level of understanding of safety before we bring it broadly to Charlotte. Just knowing where we are in terms of our maturity as a vaccine program. So then the second question that you asked me was about kids. And that actually came up on the network call this week, that we're advocating to begin trials now in children, because I was talking a little bit about the ethics of it. Children are bearing an enormous burden of the COVID impact right now. If we think about how children's lives have been disrupted, and to not be thinking about how we're going to allow children to have protection through a vaccine is absolutely ethically unacceptable. And so those trials, I think, are being started to get to a point where there's now enough safety data available. I think that's emerging, that we're going to be starting trials for kids coming up very soon. We've had more deaths from COVID than we had last year from flu. And we, vaccinate all children for flu, right? So we've had more deaths from COVID in children than we had from flu last year. And we're just beginning the winter of COVID. So we know that children are bearing both the health impact and the indirect impact. So the kids trials are coming as we have that data. Just has to happen.
Thank you.
Sure. Great question.
And Dr. Turley, and I know we're out of time, but is it possible, if we're trying to drive awareness with regards to, getting folks to participate, would it be possible for y'all to create, for Atrium, for you and the staff to create perhaps a communication that we could, if you think about Charlotte, think about, this community here, we have Wells Fargo represented, PNC represented, we have nonprofits represented, we have the media represented, business owners. But and I'm thinking that in order to leverage this council, if y'all can help us prepare maybe a communication that we could get out to, that we could distribute to our employees, just to drive the awareness. And if we make it that much easier for them, I think about all the employee networks through Bank of America and Duke Energy and Wells Fargo. It would be a nice way to get this information out. And if they want to learn more, we can drive them to the website, but if there's information, if y'all can prepare that for us and share, if you send that to me, I'm happy to distribute. We can just, distribute that to this outlet to help drive the awareness and drive folks to sign up for the registry. Just a thought, but that may be a good way, similar to what we've done with like the census, for example, or if they're interested in having you come and speak to them, then that could be another option as well. But if y'all can craft something like that, I think that would be very beneficial.
Grace, what format are you thinking? Are you thinking about like a short informational video or a PDF, or what format?
It could just be a Word document. And if you want to insert some links or the one-page PowerPoint, just I'm thinking something that can tell them a little bit about the trial, but then the benefits of it, I think, would be helpful. And then if we can drive them to a link so they can learn more about it. Okay. Or if they want to sign up, there's a link that they can sign up. Something I think like that would be helpful.
Okay.
Grace, this is Mike Gibbs. Do you think it would be, well, just guide me on this. Do you think it would be beneficial to have a single communication from Atrium Health about not only Dr. Turley's essential work, but also the COVID-19 Community Research Partnership, to see if they would want to enroll in that, so we can kind of provide one document that says, this is what we're doing. We believe that this can have an important beneficial impact on the community, and provide them with some guidance. And then, of course, next question is in English and Spanish, or in Spanish only, or all the above?
All of the above would be great. I think I see Rita Dominguez from Atrium. She made a comment, if you have the FAQ and an infographic, the easier, again, just for us to continue to help drive awareness. And, maybe that's something, Rita, you and the Atrium staff, the medical staff here can get creative and decide, what's the most effective way to get this information. Like I said, we're happy to use this outlet to help drive the awareness.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, excellent, great. Well, thank you both, Dr. Gibbs for joining us, Dr. Turley for joining us. Really appreciate it. This is, I'm going to learn more about it. I spent some time last time, but I'm going to go learn more about it to see about, signing up, and hopefully others will be able to do the same.
Thanks again for having us.
Thanks
so
for
much.
joining us.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it. And thanks for what y'all are doing every day. Thanks. And you're welcome to stay, or if you need to drop, we totally understand. Okay, so again, thanks, Dr. Turley. I'm going to now turn it over to Gina Esquivel, who is with Civic Canvas, and there's a couple of things that she's going to speak to. One is we've been talking about how can we create, some tools to help this community in terms of there's a lot of great work that's being done at the local level. And we feel like there's an opportunity for us to create a central repository. So Gina, behind the scenes, has been doing some amazing work. So Gina, I'm going to turn it over to you to kind of take it away and give us some updates in terms of the status of where we are, and if there's anything that you need from us as a community. Gina?
Sure. Grace, thank you for the shout out. One of the things that we learned from the survey is that people needed to go back to be able to see minutes or notes. And we have been, of course, in the planning of create a website where we can deposit all this information. However, in the meantime, because it takes quite a few folks to get that going, I went ahead and created a YouTube channel that will be holding the recorded meetings going forward. So what I found is some folks who were not able to join may not, by the minutes, they will have to sit down, read the minutes. But I'm a person who are very visual, and if I'm working, perhaps I could play this video in the backdrop and able to get the information as if I was in the meeting instead of or with the minutes. So the idea is that we will be putting this video on the website and eventually, on YouTube, and eventually will be on the website. And that way we get historical data on where we are today. It will be recorded in gallery format, just as you see if you have a gallery view. So you'll be showing up on the video, and of course, anything that you share on the screen. So that's something that I think you all received a release once you signed up, once you logged in on today's meeting, that asked you, was it okay? But if you do have some concerns, please let me know right away, and I'll make sure that we can try to circumvent that somehow. So if everybody agrees, we'll continue to do these, and you will receive the link in the minutes so you can share it out with other folks as well. In addition to that, so I have about 3 things that I did want to mention. One, so this is about YouTube video. The second one is that I just shared on the chat a number of links on COVID-19 information for the community. These created by Civic Canvas. These are very small videos that are Q&A regarding where you are with your family, you're caring for someone, you have children, you are in your workspace, you want to go outside. One of the things that you should be considering, they're very short, about I think max 2.5 minutes. They are with people from the street and responded by a doctor. So if you do have constituencies or folks that you're engaging every day and you want to make sure they get information, you're free to share these links. Third thing now is just to echo Leo's leadership and great work this year with the committee. I mean, we're facing a great, I think, civic wave of presence from the Latino community. And so that was part of course, a lot of work that has been doing behind the scenes. And I was commissioned by Enlace to create a set of animated videos that inform the community on the different things that they need to know before they go to vote. Assuming that a lot of our community perhaps are first-time voters and haven't had the know-how and be prepared to go into the polls. So, for example, one of the things that talking with Leo, he says, you know, people go to cast their vote, but there is these questions about bonds. And how do we know that they understand what they're saying yes or no to? So I want to share quickly just one of the videos so you get a sense of what they look like. Just give me 1 second here. And so you can see it. There are six of them. So I'll show you this one just so you get a sense. So as you see, these all the 6 series have and touch on one of the topics, whether you're an absentee voter, you want to vote in person, you want to learn about bonds, you want to learn about who are you electing this round. So ideally, a person who you may know want to hear this information beforehand. And I myself learned a lot just by having to put the content together and research. So there's always room for us to learn something new. So I encourage you to do that. I'm going to go ahead and put the bit.ly link on the chat box. So if you have, one of the asks from Leo is that we want people to be sharing these on WhatsApp. And of course on Facebook. In Facebook, you can find all the videos in the Enlace page, and on WhatsApp with the bit.ly link, you can just copy the link and put it and send it to your friends. And that was one way that they don't have to download it because it goes straight to the playlist on YouTube. All right, so I'm gonna turn it over, Grace. I did chat with Leo, and I thought it was important that he will show us where we can find a lot of this information. Leo, so if you don't mind sharing the go-to place for us to find information around voting.
Unmute. Was I able to share?
Yes.
Are you seeing? Okay, so I put a link in everyone's, I put a link in the chat to the Facebook page for the Latino Civic Engagement Committee. As you can see, you'll see our little logos here, and you know, we have 36,000 voters. Right here, we'll have plenty of videos. It's not just me, I promise. We have great articles and stuff like that. As I mentioned, Teresa Peña does a great job of getting information out there. This is one of the ones that we had last night. Please, if you haven't seen Wendy Mateo Pascual's presentation on what's on the election ballot, please be able to share this. It's a great presentation in Spanish so that other members of our community could understand what they're voting for, not who they're voting for. We don't talk about any candidates. All we do is we talk about the different positions, what's on the ballot, stuff like that, so that people feel more, or they feel reassured when they go to the voting booth. So as you can see, we have tons of information here. Please feel free to like us, join us, be part of our community, and share. So as I mentioned earlier, this latest video that we have here is a 5-person challenge. So go on there, share that, share it with 5 other people, ask 5 other people to vote, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Leo. And Grace, I think we have covered the talking points for this recap, so I will send it back to you.
Excellent. Thank you both very much for that. Thanks, Gina. Thanks, Leo. And then we'll include this information, the recap, so that you can have it. Of course, it's in the chat. So please, let's do our part and let's continue to drive the awareness. We're down to just a few more days. Of course, early registration expires, I believe it's Saturday, right? The 31st. And then, of course, November 3rd. So, and again, as Leo and Gina both mentioned, we don't really care who you vote for or who they vote for. It's about being part of this process. So excellent. Thank you so much, both of you. Okay, we're going to transition now to Drew, who's with Charlotte Bilingual Preschool, and he's going to talk a little bit about the careers in early education. They're trying to build this pipeline. So with that, Drew, we're going to give you the next 8 minutes to provide us an update. So Drew, I'll turn it over to you. You can get off mute and then speak to the opportunities.
That sounds good. Thank you, Grace. And I want to start, thank you, Grace, and thank you to Bank of America for that amazing award. And I think Honor's not here, and I can say things that she wouldn't be able to say, but I think it's a great testament to her amazing leadership and how lucky and fortunate we are to have her leading us forward. And as part of that, we've been working on a strategic plan to grow at Charlotte Bilingual Preschool. So we have data and evidence showing the positive impact we have on our students and our families. But we have recognized that we're currently only serving a small fraction of the Latino and Spanish-speaking children who are entering kindergarten. So there are 3,000 students entering kindergarten each year who we believe could benefit from a high-quality dual language early childhood education. So we've developed plans to grow, expand to other sites, have more classes, and so on. But one of the main challenges to be able to do that is that we need more bilingual, well-trained early educators to be able to staff that growth. So we are working with CPCC and UNC Charlotte to develop a program that can train interested bilingual and dual language adults to have the certificate needed to be an early childhood teacher, dual language preschool teacher. And as part of that, we're trying to reach out to see, one, how many family members we can identify who would be interested in a program like that, but also what that program would need to look like. So I'm gonna share a survey that we've created, and we are trying to get this out to some family members to get a better sense of, one, how many people are interested, two, how many would have the English capacity to take classes, college level classes in English. If not, that's not a barrier. We're trying to work with CPCC and UNCC to offer courses in Spanish as well, but just trying to see how many would kind of fit into each of those buckets. And then also, we ask a question about the ability to work legally in the United States, just because that changes where funding could come from for these classes. There are different scholarships available for students with different characteristics. So we're trying to understand that and understand what that pathway would then look like once the certificate, the degree is obtained, what that pathway would look like to work either at Charlotte Bilingual Preschool or another early childhood center. So those are some of the main questions, is trying to see who's interested and how many family members fall into different buckets that could work. And I think we're really excited about this because it kind of addresses social mobility from two different angles, where not only, so by expanding, we can provide higher quality early education to more students, which prepares them for more success moving forward in elementary school, potentially better jobs, and so on. But then also it has a direct impact by creating jobs and educating Latino parents, which can prepare them for better outcomes and again, prepare their children for better outcomes. So we're really excited about this project, and we would love help distributing the survey So far from UNCC and CPCC, we've heard that we need like 12 to 20 students to fill a class, and we've distributed this to our family members, and we have about 12 who are interested now. We actually already have 14 who are taking a course at Wake Tech. So there are some interested within our school community, but we would love to hear more and extend the opportunity outside of our school community as well. So I think that's most of what I have. I didn't take all my 8 minutes, but if anyone has any questions, or you can ask now, or I can post my email address as well. I would love to stay in touch.
So thank you, Drew, for that. So any questions for Drew? What a great opportunity. I know we need more, especially, one of the things we've been talking about is how do we expand, help expand Charlotte Bilingual Preschool. I sit on the board of Charlotte Bilingual Preschool, and we've been talking so much about how do we expand our footprint? It can't just be one location. Drew mentioned earlier, right? We have 3,000 Hispanic Latino students in Mecklenburg County that start kindergarten every year. And how do we prepare those students to be competitive at the age of 5, kindergarten, to prepare them so when they start kindergarten, they can be competitive or at the same level playing field with their peers at 5 years old. So, and those students who have gone through the program with Charlotte Bilingual Preschool, those students are doing extremely well, but we want to do more, but we need these educators. So what questions do you have for Drew? Questions or comments for Drew?
Hey, Drew and Grace, this is Gabe again. Obviously, not only is there size of population that matters here and having an educated teaching workforce, but what about the money and funding in order to be able to support either growing the physical footprint of the school or just funding all those salaries? So how are you guys doing on the funding side of things?
So we have a fundraising plan to grow over the next few years, and that's kind of hit a halt this year with COVID and everything. I don't know all the details of the fundraising plan, but I know we have plans for our budget to increase basically every year and to add more classes slowly every year. This year already, we're at another site in Southwest Charlotte. So we've kind of started that expansion process. But there
Grace,
definitely more
maybe as well, but is it just fee for service where the income is coming from, or are there grants and big corporate sponsors as well? How does that work?
There are grants, there are corporate sponsors, and then part of our partnership is with MEC Pre-K. So they offer support for to offer free preschool to our students. So our families don't pay or pay a minimal monthly fee. But they cover some of the administrative and so on. But part of what we do is offer a high quality family program as well to create a community of support. And right now that's all driven by grants and corporate sponsors as well. So I'm sure those needs will continue to grow moving forward.
Absolutely. Well. And I will also add, so I just joined the board recently and have challenged that they had a 10-year plan. I'm thinking 10 years, gosh, we'll fall behind. We'll never get caught up. So we're trying to reduce our plan to make it a 5-year strategy so that we can go and start to, raise those funds to help us expand the footprint in partnership with not only the county and, but also corporate sponsors. So it's going to be a combination of, as Drew mentioned, it'll definitely be a combination, but it's about the average cost per student for this program would be about $8,000 per student. So it's going to require a lot of funding. And then maybe there's some opportunities for us to be able to be provided space of someone that the bank has done that quite a bit. Not that we have space in those locations, but starting, developing that really comprehensive strategy so that we can start to implement that. But again, 10 years from my perspective was just way too long. So the conversation we've been having recently is to narrow that down to 5 years so that we can start to really make an impact in the lives of these students. I think also what's going to help us is even if we think about trying to bring in new businesses, Hispanic Latino businesses into the Charlotte market, one of the things that I think can help the Charlotte Bilingual Preschool is having this program available to these businesses and employees that could potentially be coming into the market, is to say, we've got this, but we've got this not only in one part of town, but we have it in multiple locations. It's going to take us a while to get there, But the good news is we're having those conversations now. But I think back to, the purpose of, your presentation, Drew, is the importance of identifying those educators to help go through the program, to prepare them so at the right time we have those individuals available to start, working with the students. So if you know of anyone that's interested, or if you're interested, anyone that's interested, by all means, let's connect with Drew. So Drew, I know you posted some information here. And if you want to send me some information, we can certainly help get the word out, because I think this is a great opportunity. And I know Barbara and there are others, we have so many educators, Dr. Saladin, who's also with us today, is, how can we continue to make those connections to help? Because this is really an investment in these little ones. We can't wait till they're in high school. We got to start when they're 3 years old. We've been talking about birth to 5 years old. We got to start when they're really little.
Absolutely.
Right.
And back to Gabriel's question, I'm glad you brought up the funding, is because that will be a growing need. And if you have thoughts or ideas, I'm happy to connect you with Banu, or Connie, our advancement director, would be the person who would be more qualified to talk about all that.
Yeah, I just think whatever the plan becomes, just make sure this group is aware of it so we can connect it to funders if we know them.
Absolutely. Maybe one of the things that we can do at one of our future meetings, Drew and Banu can come and speak to the strategy at a higher level, especially with folks such as, we have Wells Fargo, we have PNC, we have, myself, I think of Mina. I mean, we have different corporate potential sponsors that can go after that. As I shared with Banu recently, is how do we get all the Hispanic Latino nonprofits in front of these funders, because in some cases, they don't know about all these different organizations, but it's good for us to, and we haven't been able to schedule that because of COVID. And I think it's a lot more impactful when it's in person, but I think we have an opportunity, because that really provides opportunities for these nonprofits who are doing tremendous work. But our challenge is the funding. The money exists, but how do we go after it? How do we tap into that? So hopefully at the right time, we'll be able to get in front of all those leaders, this potential funders that can help us, not just short term, but long term.
Agreed. Good idea.
And one point that I know is specifically related to the development of this early education pipeline, workforce pipeline, is that there are several scholarships out there for people trained to be teachers, as long as they are North Carolina residents. So there are North Carolina scholarships and programs that can offer that funding, but we're trying to figure out if and how we can support mothers, fathers who might be undocumented, might not have the ability to work legally yet, might be working towards that. How can we support them to continue their education and be qualified once they get that status? That might be an option, or potentially have the option to open a daycare, something like that, that can create income and still enhance the education to our children. So any ideas that come up related to that would be helpful in particular.
Right. Okay, excellent. Well, thank you for that. And for those of you that don't know Drew, Drew is a PhD student at UNCC. Is that correct? Did I get that right? Okay, yep. Great. So thanks for all the work that you're doing at Charlotte Bilingual Preschool. Appreciate it. So we'll have y'all come back at one of our future meetings, and we'll spend more time talking about that. So thank you for that. And thanks, Gabe, for the questions. And I know we only have 5 minutes left. So if you have an update for the round robin, if you'd be so kind to just post that in the chat so that we make sure that we get that out in the recap, that would be great. And Simone continues to do an amazing job for us in capturing all of our meeting notes, so that, we can get them out to those that, of course, all of you who participate with us, but then also those that are unable to join us. So thanks, Simone, for that great work. And Simone is with Wells Fargo. So now we get to do the Get to Know 5 Fast Facts. And Julie Rodriguez with Commonwealth Charlotte is our special guest. So with that, Julie, I'm going to turn it over to you. So over the next 3 minutes, if you'd be so kind to share your 5 fast facts, we would appreciate it. And like I said, don't forget to post your updates on the round robin, because I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Julie?
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I was really excited to do this exercise, and Grace said, do it either personal or professional. And since we've all been cooped up in Zoom meetings, I thought it would be great to just, get a little personal, because all of the other professional stuff you can Google and find out. So my first fact is I was born in Bogota, Colombia. I came here at the age of 8 because my parents wanted to give me a better future, and their focus was really on a college education. So as most of us immigrant children, that was drilled into my head. My mom and dad gave up a lot to come and work here. They did jobs that they never thought they would: cleaning, construction, you name it. And we lived in New York for a number of years, I think for most of my life here in the States. And it was a very difficult transition for me. I did not like it. I will admit it. I did not really feel comfortable and feel part of the community until I was pretty much in high school or college. So that was very, very rough, but I share that with you all because I think it shaped who I am as a person. I don't think I would have learned those lessons if I stayed back home, and also shaped the decisions I made as a professional. So with that, when it came time for college, as most of us, it's either a lawyer, a doctor, or an engineer. And so I always thought I wanted to do pre-med, and I was very focused on OBGYN work because of the work that, in support of women. And after one semester, I was like, this is not for me. I don't connect, I don't engage very well. And so from there, I transitioned into psychology, and I loved it. It was the best years of my life, trying to kind of connect my story with all of the things that I was learning, and connect all of the stories of my peers and my friends with everything that I was learning. And so it was great that I made that transition. But women's work, as I call it, has always been a calling of mine. And now that I'm more settled in my field, I'm also looking to connect with some of our ancestral knowledge around midwifery and home births, and the care of quarentena, which most women nowadays don't really have a chance to really focus on. So I guess I kind of have a chance to now connect my two passions there. Fact number 3, I love to travel. As much as my husband hates it, because he's like, financially we should be focusing on other things, but we made a pact to kind of do one international trip a year and one trip to Colombia every year, because we both came here so young. Me at age 8, my husband at age 12. We want to feel connected to our culture in a way that we may not really have if we don't travel. And now that we have children, we want to expand that knowledge and that connection and that love of who we are to them. Fact number 4, I'm a Colombian, so I love to dance and I love salsa. But while in college, I learned to dance on 2, which is New Yorican style, which I really, really love. Although I'm really rusty, not only because of COVID, but because of life, I really haven't gotten out to the dance floor. But when all of this is over, I think we should all go over to Salud and join one of their Latin nights, because it's amazing. I've seen Miriam there a couple of times, and it's awesome. And 5, my last fun fact is that throughout the years, over 13 years of doing the work that we've done in social service and mental health, my husband and I always wanted to really start a center, a haven for holistic work. We're very much into traditional talk therapies and all of that, but I think that there's a number of other types of holistic meditations and other practices that would be really beneficial for our community and our mental health and our healing. And so we were very, very excited to start that project this year in February, which is called Vida Wellness Center. And then COVID hit. So it's been a challenge, but it's definitely still a dream come true. And I'm very, very proud of it. So stay tuned to that. And hopefully you'll hear more about how we expand and adapt to this new way of life and bring that over to our community in a way that's going to be beneficial. And that's it. That's me personally in a nutshell. So thank you so much for allowing me to share this with all of you today.
Gosh, just when I thought I knew you, Julie. So thank you so much for that.
I tried to think of something different. So
No, that's great. And that's why we do this, because I think we spend so much time, well, of course, not because of COVID recently, but when we spend time together, but you learn, so much from folks. So thank you for that. And I'm sure others learned a lot of new stuff. I knew that you loved to dance. I knew you loved to travel. So, but thank you for sharing your story with us, your 5 fast facts. So with that, I know we're past 1 o'clock. So I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Again, if you haven't had a chance to post any round robin updates into the chat room, we will be sure to include them. Please do so we can include them in the recap. But with that, thanks everyone for your time. If you haven't voted, go out and vote. Encourage at least five people to go out and vote. Again, we don't care who they vote for, but go out and vote. That's our right. It's our civic duty. So let's do that. And then we will regroup in 2 weeks. And then we'll take a look we'll reschedule the late November one, because I think that overlaps with Thanksgiving. So thanks everyone for your time. Thanks for all that you're doing in the community. Greatly appreciated. Everyone be safe, and we will be in touch. Thanks. See ya. Good seeing everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.